Shalom. All praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Ba'asham Yahawashai, Bahasham Racha Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and salutations to all you sincere Kiam. And this is your brother Abawan back again with another video through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahawashai, Bahasham Racha Kwadash. All praises and glory is due. And the title of this video you've already seen, but the video itself is inspired by the recent news article that came out of the Pope apologizing for slavery, right? And when I saw that article, my first thought was, wait, didn't the Pope already do this before? And of course he did, because you have different dates and different timelines in which the Pope would apologize for the Christian church's role in slavery. And when I say slavery, and when I use the term slavery in the title of the video as well, I should probably use a different term because you know how YouTube is. They have certain buzzwords they don't they censor. Basically, you use those words and your video is ultimately going to be shadow banned. That's why you're seeing people say grape, unalive, self delete, and different words like that, because basically the YouTube algorithm is now monitoring speech and making sure that certain words are not used in their video, which is once again gradualism for Isoidom's control. Eventually, it's also controlling what terms and what speech, what words you can say. So yeah, back to what I was saying, back to the main video. The main point of this video is to go into this right here, where you have the Pope of the Catholic Church apologizing for the Catholic Church and ultimately the church in general's role in the transatlantic slave trade. So when I use the term slavery, what I'm referring to is the transatlantic slave trade and not the system of slavery as a whole, because as we know, right, there slavery is legal according to the scriptures, but the difference in the transatlantic slave trade and regular slavery is that Esau Edom did not, you know, perform or perform the transatlantic slavery according to the way the scriptural guidelines are placed. And the first example of that is this. And let's go to the precepts, the BLB now. Let's go to the precepts. So this is the book of Exodus 21, verse 16. And he that stealeth a man and selleth him, or if he be found in his hand, he shall surely be put to death. And this is the first guideline to show you that, yeah, Esau went off, especially during the transatlantic slave trade, right? Because kidnapping is not allowed in the scriptures. But then you might ask, how is it then that, slavery was possible if you're not allowed to kidnap, to steal a man and to put them into captivity? Well, it's quite simple. The vast majority of your slaves, right, are either born into your house as slaves or sold themselves into captivity, and not that they were kidnapped by somebody else and sold into slavery. Which is why, going back to the Old Testament, the book of Exodus, Number, in the first books of Moses, you had people, the Israelites, putting all these nations to death, wiping out the men and the women with child as well, but mainly the men we're talking about right now, wiping out the men, right? Notice that all throughout the books of Moses, there wasn't a single nation that our people, you know, put to the sword and they took the men into captivity, or they kidnapped the men and they put them in captivity, or even the women as well, because even that, taking a wife out of the women that were scared of these nations, there was even an order to that. And most times, the vast majority of the Canaanite nations that our people wiped out, they did not spare a single individual, not man, not woman, not child. All of them were put to death. But that's a different story, and not even what we're focusing on right now. Because what we're focusing on is the acts of slavery, or rather the transatlantic slave trade. And I always say this, but the transatlantic slave trade was not slavery, okay? Of course, slavery was a component of it, but what Esau Edom did during that, okay, the transatlantic slave trade and the triangular slave trade, because those are two different events. The triangular slave trade refers to the northern kingdom, right? Um, Reuben, Gad, and Ephraim, basically, being put in slavery as well. So they were transported in ships to Europe, okay, the Northern Kingdom, of course. And what I'm saying is that that form of slavery was far different from anything you see in the scriptures or what can be scripturally defined as slavery, because you had attempts at genocide, right? Israel was trying to legitimately wipe out the children of the nation of Israel, specifically in the Northern Kingdom, right? And you also had all the crimes and the atrocities committed against our people that were against the scriptures. An example is what I just read here in Exodus 21, verse 16. But going back to the article, you can see various news articles going into the same thing, right? The Catholic Church, and the fact that it supported, not only supported, but it promoted and pushed the transatlantic and triangular slave trade, a la the doctrine of discovery. So when I say Wakitaki plantation Christianity, right, the Christian religion itself is a supported slavery. And hold on, let me go back. Supported slavery. And and the title of this video. Hold on, let me look for it because I actually wrote down the title. So the title of this video is Slavery is a Christian Institution. And that was the transatlantic and the triangular slave trade is a Christian institution, right? Because whenever people think about slavery, to show you just how terrible the oppression of our people are, all the other forms of slavery that existed on the earth has been annulled by the transatlantic and triangular slave trade, because compared to all other forms of slavery, this was the harshest and most brutal form of slavery, showing you that we are the Israelites, because unto all nations on the planet, no nation has been treated as harshly as our people have. But yeah, the idea of slavery makes you immediately think of the transatlantic slave trade, and like the title says, slavery is a Christian institution, and the transatlantic slave trade is a Christian institution because it was ordained and blessed by the Christian church. That's why you see your first slave ships. What did they call the first slave ship? Was it not JC of Lubeck, Jesus of Lubeck, right? That's the first slave ship, the good ship Jesus, you know. And once again, the doctrine of discovery that's basically that's basically pushed the transatlantic slave trade to new heights. And that's what I'm going to do right now. But first and foremost, I was wanted to highlight this. And you see, if you go through these articles, you see that they were written in different times, right? In different dates. And it's basically all going into the same thing. The Pope, speaking against speaking against the slavery, specifically the slavery that was inflicted upon our people, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which are the Hebrew Israelites according to the scriptures. Okay, but now jumping to the next point, the doctrine of discovery. I don't really want to go into the Pope actually making a statement, apologizing for the Catholic Church's involvement in slavery. But rather, what I want to do is show you the church, okay, not just the Catholic Church, because going back to the 1500s, which is when the doctrine of discovery was actually established, you really only had the Catholic Church as the only Christian church out there. So this shows that the church, in and of itself, the Christian church supported wholly all forms of the transatlantic slavery. Because you see these Christians come out now, oh, slavery is wrong, oh, slavery is bad, after they've already reaped all the benefits of set slavery, right? They have pushed the wickedness of their religion, and really all Christianity is just the religion of Edomite supremacy. Okay, that's why you are seeing it being pushed throughout all the four corners of the earth. That's why you are seeing that all your top Edomites are all Christians. Technically, Joe Biden is a Catholic, right? You can see the same as the vast majority of American politicians, but you see the wickedness that goes on in Babylon the Great. And to this day, okay, to this day, America, Babylon the Great is a Christian country. So if that does not show you the hypocrisy of Christianity, nothing else really will. And that's the reason why so many people are waking up to the lies and the deceits of Wakitake plantation Christianity. And this is an opportunity for us to distinguish. That's the app from Tanzania. But like I was saying, this is an opportunity for us to distinguish between the Christian church, right? The God of the Christian church and the religion of Christianity, and the scriptures and the Hebrew Israelite religion that we push, showing you that there is a stark difference. It's night and day, basically. So, this is the doctrine of discovery from worldhistory.com. Okay, if you want to know what website I used, this is the name of the website. Website is worldhistory.com. The doctrine of discovery is a policy enacted initially by the 15th century, and the 15th century is the 1400s. So let me just correct myself. When I said the doctrine of discovery was enacted in the 1500s, I meant the 1400s, which is when Renaissance, which is when your Renaissance really came into prominence, right? Your Renaissance began to, which is when the Renaissance began to happen, okay, or began on the earth, which is your Renaissance Christianity. Esau Edom being put back in power, and the rulership of Esau Edom being reborn. And I'll also replying later. I'm doing the video right now. So yeah, the doctrine of discovery is a policy enacted initially by the 15th century Catholic Church, proclaiming the rights of Christian nations, which at that time the only Christian nations you had was Spain, Portugal, and I believe Great Britain. Well, really, it was really only your European nations. The rest of the world, they were all into other religions, okay, other doctrines and beliefs. So yeah, continuing on, the doctrine of discovery is a policy enacted initially by the 15th century Catholic Church, proclaiming the right of Christian nations to take possession of the land of non-Christians in the interest of saving their souls, quote unquote, saving their souls, because let me just continue reading. Non-Christians are not recognized as legitimate landowners, and any land discovered by Christian explorers were claimed as the property of the discoverer's nation. Right, and if you go into the history of the doctrine of discovery, you find out how sinister Esau Edom truly is, because what you will find out is that the whole world, okay, was separated between these Christian nations. So you had Portugal and Spain, which are the primary Catholic countries at that time, separating various lands in Africa, in Asia, and even in North and South America between themselves, calling it calling it their own lands, right? All these European nations basically separating these lands, even though they were inhabited and they had people living in it, but they did not care about those people, because once again showing you that basically any non-Christian nation. And let me make something clear, okay? Non-Christian doesn't mean that they don't have Christianity in here. They don't worship the God of the Bible, so they are non-Christian. Non-Christian means they don't follow the Catholic Church, because that's really what the non-Christian here means. Because you could have the scriptures, right? Because you going back to Ethiopia, you had Christians in Ethiopia during that time. You already had a Christian church in Ethiopia. You also had the Coptic church, right? During that time in Egypt as well. But because they weren't Catholic, they were technically not regarded as Christians, and that's how the doctrine of discovery works. So basically any non-Catholic religion, right, was considered non-Christian. So even if you believed in this, that you had the scriptures, you believed in the Most High and His Son, they still would not consider you Christian, and by that regard, you are considered a savage, not fully human, because this is what these Edomites won't tell you about the doctrine of discovery. That it basically taught any non-Christian. That's why they call them savages. That's why basically during that time everybody was a savage except for Esau, Edom. That's why they call them savages. Whether it was in whether it was in the Americas or it was here in Africa or even all the way in Asia as well, they call them savages. No matter how civilized they were still considered savages because they did not serve the Catholic religion, they did not follow the Catholic religion. And it's the same thing you have with your Knights of the Templars. It's all just a form of Wakitake plantation Christianity using its power using its power to consolidate more power. So you see that the Catholic Church, of course, supporting and blessing these different nations, right? These different Edomite nations in their pursuit of wickedness in the form of the transatlantic slave trade. Okay. Well, let's continue reading. The doctrine of discovery, also known as the discovery doctrine, is articulated first by a papal bull issued in 1452, another in 1455, and the best known in 1493, shortly after the 1492 expedition of Christopher Columbus and his discovery of the so-called New World. The 1493 papal bull made clear the duty of Christian explorers to seize the lands of non-Christians for the purpose of Christianizing the inhabitants and bringing them within the folds of European Christian civilization. Right, and that's why you see all these wacky-tacky plantation Christians so gung-ho about converting you, right? That's why these Christians are so gung-ho about converting you, because it's not about conversion, right? It's not about converting you, about you repenting. It's about indoctrination. Basically, in order to consolidate the power of Esau, Edom, and the control which which the Edomite church has on the earth, they are converting. And these and the convert is in quotes, right? They are converting you into their own brand of Christianity, where you worship the white Messiah, the white power, Serapis Christus and Cesare Borgia, in order for you to consider yourself a Christian. Okay. And this is the same ideology that followed during the transatlantic slave trade, which is why if you go back into your history, you see that there were missionaries in all the parts of the world where these Edomites went to oppress the people. Even during the plantation Christianity, even during the transatlantic slave trade, before these Edomites came with their ships and their slaving, right? You had these Christian missionaries come out first, talking about the tender mercies of JC, right? The doctrine of this wicked Christian doctrine. That's why you had the Native American boarding camps where you had all these gathered children, or I should say so-called Native American boarding camps, where you had all these gathered children being forced to practice Wakitake plantation Christianity and forsake their own, you know, the religion of the customs and the practices of the Gadites. Which of course many of them are going off, but you still have some semblance of the Hebrew Israelite religion among them. Okay, hey man, this is why Christianity as a whole is wicked. So let me get these precepts. As it's written, this is a people robbed and spoiled, whose possessors. Let me go to that. So this is the book of Zechariah 11, verse 4. Thus saith Yahweh my power, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose possessors slay them, and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, Blessed be Yahweh, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. And that's the spirit. That's what happened during the transatlantic slave trade, man. Esau Edom came in, enriched himself off the labor of our people, and said, "Bless the Most High, for I am rich." That's why you had once again the doctrine of discovery, manifest destiny, right? Basically, that the Esau Edom was destined to rule Babylon the Great, which of course it is true, right? They were destined to rule Babylon the Great, but you have to remember, and it's just like the elder Malcolm says, manifest destiny has a part two. And you devils aren't going to like that part two. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, the doctrine of discovery is proof that Wakitake plantation Christianity wholeheartedly supported the transatlantic slave trade. And it's funny how, if you ask them now, the Christians will tell you that, oh, slavery is bad, slavery is this and that. But during that time, they didn't have that ideology. They were fully in support of the transatlantic slave trade, okay? Which is why you had, once again, this right here, the doctrine of discovery being being used all over the earth. So yeah, I've already gotten everything I wanted to get from after this article, just to get the main point of it, of it being what I said, right? And vocab, whenever, and vocab, whenever going to this, how the Christian church as a whole, right? Because like I said, this is before this is before Protestantism. This is before you had all these breakups in the Catholic Church, because you had the Catholic Church originally, then eventually you had the Anglican Church, because England wanted a piece of the of the wickedness pie. And that's why you see Great Britain being able to, you know, be doing their wickedness all over the earth, right? The sun never sits on the British Empire, right? Because they established their own church and used that to enslave the nations as well, especially you Israelites, man. Because when we talk about the largest victims of the oppression of the Catholic Church and of the Church, it's you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. Which is why, wherever you go to on the planet where Jake are, the main religion that you see these Israelites follow is Christianity, whether it's Catholicism or Anglicanism or another form of Protestantism. That shows you the hold that the Christian church still has upon our people, right? Because Jake was forcefully converted into Christianity during the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, so yeah, let's end the video right here. Just wanted to go into that a little bit. So with that, I'll end the video right here. Once again, all praises, honor, and glory. Oh, right. And before I end the video, now I also wanted to touch on this as well. Okay, because before, because what I googled was Pope apologizes for slavery. So when you go to the news article concerning this Google right here, I also put in Google Pope apologizes for slavery, and you see the headlines that pop out. Apparently a couple of days ago, the Pope was caught saying some things against the Moors, right? The alphabet lifestyle. And that's what is fooling the timeline right now. Oh, Pope is apologizing for speaking against the alphabet community and saying some words against them. No mention of, the Christian church and its role in the transatlantic slave trade, and how they supported and pushed, these the various nations that, Spain, Portugal, and even Great Britain, to go on to commit these atrocities, right, in the form of the transatlantic slave trade. But yeah, they are focused on, they're focused on, the moves. But anyway, that's what I was saying. So with that, once again, all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Basham, Yahweh, Basham, Racha, Kwadash, Wa Abad Babal, and through the Spirit. I hope you are calm and you are quite edified. Shalom.